Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A person in the 80-plus age category from our Northwest zone has died after testing positive for COVID-19. There are 10 new cases in our zone, all of them are in Lloydminster. There are 190 new cases across the province. 1,565 cases are considered active province-wide, with 42 of those in our zone. 147 people are in hospital, including 6 in the Northwest. More than 151,000 vaccine doses have been administered in Saskatchewan, with over 13,000 doses given in our zone. Lloydminster's 2020 budget saw a small surplus last year, despite spending 9 months operating through a pandemic. Eric Bay has more on the city's finances.
The city ended the year with a $2 million overall operating surplus from last year's budget, which will be put into reserves. Mayor Gerald Albers is happy to have that cushion, with COVID-19's impact set to be felt in provincial grants starting next year.
Having some reserves always makes me feel a little bit better, knowing that we don't know what is coming around the bend next, and we still have one more provincial budget. I'll remind the listeners that we have one more provincial budget to go, and that could certainly send us in a little different direction.
Last year, the city lost $6.7 million in revenue, including $2.2 million from recreation and culture alone, as facilities closed or were restricted. The city offset the losses by cutting operational costs and through provincial grant funding.
Financial planning is one of the items that was strongly discussed in 2016 during the election. I think we heard it very clearly again in 2020, putting the city on a financial stability footing that was solid, ensuring that every time that we needed money, we didn't have to go back to the taxpayers.
This year's budget has been referred to as a bare bones budget by many members of council, with the city scaling back spending in response to the pandemic.
As we've talked about this, everyone asks, when's COVID over? I don't have an answer for that. So we'll continue to deal with that as best as we can and ensure that we deliver the services that the community is looking for.
Multiple construction projects are in the 2021 budget, including repaving a portion of Highway 16 this summer. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
As we continue to investigate the realities of online fraud, Tate Laycraft sat down with Sergeant Brad Moulin to talk about gift card scams.
Today I'm joined by Sergeant Brad Moland from the Lloydminster RCMP, and he's here to continue a bit of an ongoing conversation that we're having here at PTLN about online fraud. And today we're going to touch base on gift card fraud. Thanks so much for joining me today, Brad.
Thanks for having me.
So gift card scams usually revolve around scammers posing as government officials seeking maybe a debt payment. They'll instruct their victims to go to the nearest convenience store and purchase thousands of dollars worth of gift cards and transfer the codes then over the phone. Could you just maybe speak to the type of reach outs that people can watch out for?
Well, it has been one of the more frequent crimes that have been reported and committed in the Lloydminster area. We do get on average of just a little better than one per day. We've had, in the year 2020, we had approximately 400 calls for service regarding these types of frauds. Kind of broke down some of our statistics a little further to show about approximately 30 directly involving the sale or purchase of gift cards as currency within businesses. So there is a number there. It's a little troubling to us, of course, whenever anybody gets defrauded or scammed in this type of way. But we have seen some instances of this becoming, I guess, more of a little bit of an upswing in these types of transactions.
And do you think that these scams tend to target a certain demographic?
Well, certainly, I think a lot of our education from a policing standpoint often gets geared towards seniors. Seniors sometimes can be a vulnerable population that require a little bit of education in some technology sometimes. All of us may require some of that from time to time, but definitely it's a group that gets targeted by scammers. We see a lot of different things going on as far as gift cards and the way things are posed to seniors. It can sometimes be posed as the CRA or Canada Revenue Agency scams, which are quite common, and a lot of people have heard of those in the past. Sometimes people even suggest that this is the police calling or the RCMP, and we want to try to get the majority of our education geared out towards a lot of awareness. And with some of the numbers that we have seen here in Lloydminster, I had mentioned we've had a 400 plus, but probably 30 involving gift cards. Keep in mind, we do have a large number of people that are receptive to acknowledging these scams and being able to identify them and letting us know when things don't seem right.
Changing gears just a little bit, a lot of these conversations tend to put focus on the precautions that people can take to keep themselves safe. But when these gift cards are being purchased, someone is selling it to them. Could you just maybe speak to the importance of looking out for other people who might be victims of these scams, or maybe how employers could educate their own employees to watch out for these situations?
Yeah, certainly that's always something that we would encourage. We don't have any direct control, of course, over what an employer may implement as a store policy for their employees. We just hope that it becomes a general knowledge to anybody in the public, regardless of if you're a customer or if you're a staff member. And those are the things, again, we want to encourage that education. So if you are a staff member or if you're a citizen, a member of the public that's witnessing this type of behavior, such as another customer purchasing an abnormal amount of gift cards, that should set off a little bit of a red flag. So we would hope that maybe you would intervene in that matter, at least to speak to that person. I think sometimes in the past, it doesn't necessarily go over quite as well. Sometimes scammers can be quite convincing and often threatening to some people. So they may not be receptive to being told that while they're standing in a store lineup, but definitely, we've seen some instances like that go on social media, even around the Lloydminster area, and we're definitely appreciative of those citizens, of those people that do intervene and attempt to stop this behavior, because sometimes that's all it takes is somebody else to step in and suggest that maybe something's not right here.
And what kind of supports are you guys offering for people right now? If someone was in the middle of a suspected scam, where could they go to seek clarity?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, we have a couple of different options. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Center is a number that citizens can call 1-800-495-8501. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Center has a lot of resources on their site, and often we refer people to that site. They have a lot of education on there as well. They have an A to Z index where you can kind of index a lot of different frauds that are going on, sometimes by name. But also, we would encourage people, if anybody ever feels like they're in that type of situation or receives an email, a text message, a phone call that they think may be a little bit suspect, definitely welcome to reach out to Lloydminster RCMP here at 780-808-8400. And we can definitely, if this is even in progress in a store, in a lineup, no matter where it is, we can send a member there to have some discussion and try to decipher what's going on there and at least talk to those people, right?
Thanks so much, Brad.
Thank you.
Grade 7 students at College Park School are hosting a podcast featuring local experts. We spoke with some of the students and their teacher on this experience.
I'm joined now with grade 7 teacher Cornelius Cron and two of his grade 7 students. Now, this is the second year of the grade 7's Talk to Experts podcast. So what was kind of the main focus of this podcast?
And what I want is, I want a couple of things. I want students to practice their communication skills. So in the podcast, they are talking to adults about their experience in life and how they became an expert in what they're an expert in. So they send an email to inquire if the person is willing to do it. Then they communicate with that person to set up a time. And then during the interview, they are hosting a minimum half-hour interview with somebody else. And so that takes a lot of communication skills. The second thing I want is for them to know that school doesn't necessarily, or education doesn't necessarily come out of a textbook. It's about the things that you do and about the knowledge that you are pursuing for yourself. And then lastly, I just want them to see the wonderful things that other people see in them. They are amazing kids, and they ask fantastic questions, and hopefully they gain a lot of knowledge and satisfaction from the job that they do.
And what would you say is kind of the range of people interviewed?
We have had such a range of people. It's been fantastic. We started the session with a podcast expert, somebody who does a podcast as part of their professional life. We have had a police officer and a Taekwondo expert. We've had a car mechanic and a race car driver. We have a lawyer coming up this morning. And later next week, we'll also be talking to the mayor of Lloydminster. So we run the gambit from A to Z.
And from what you've seen so far, what do you think the kids have really taken away from this?
I think they've taken away a lot of confidence in themselves, and the realization that, you know what, it was hard and I anticipated it being difficult, but in the end, it wasn't as hard as I thought. So they took that risk. They did something that no other grade 7 student has done, and they did a really good job with it.
And who did you guys both interview?
I interviewed a secondary black belt in Taekwondo.
And I interviewed a car restorer slash mechanic and also a racer.
And what was your favorite part about interviewing?
Getting the questions for the expert and actually talking to them.
Well, I'm normally not good with talking in front of a bunch of people, so I liked learning like getting confidence, and then I also just like having fun talking to somebody about what they like to do.
And what would you say is maybe the coolest thing that you learned from your interview or one of your classmates' interview?
That you don't, even if you're not confident, you can still get enough confidence to do the podcast. When you're doing it, you think it's not that bad.
It's really the same for me. Like, if you're nervous, just go up there and have fun, and then you can just learn more by doing something other than just like writing down a quiz, by like actually interacting with more people.
And if anyone is looking to listen to the podcast, where can they go?
They can go to multiple sources. Wherever they normally get their podcast information from, they can get it from there. So Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor FM. We're doing a lot of promotion on our College Park Facebook page or Twitter. And so every week where there's a new episode coming out, we'll post a link on there. So if they want to make it easy on themselves, they can just follow College Park School and we will post those links there.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today.
Beyond the Classroom is brought to you by Lakeland College, home to the most hands-on education in Canada. Apply today and graduate job ready.
Now our Evan Kenny will take a first look at your weather forecast.
Thanks, Jasmine. Taking a first look now at your evening forecast. Currently 2 degrees here in Lloydminster, and it is a cloudy one as it has been all day. And unfortunately, that cloudiness will continue over all the way until tomorrow afternoon. As we take a look now at some temperatures from around the region here. 4 degrees in Marwayne, 8 down in Provost, 7 in Wainwright, 5 in Vermilion, as well as in Bonnyville, 2 in Cold Lake and in St. Paul, 6 over in Vegreville, and 3 in Edmonton. As we move now to the Saskatchewan side here, 4 degrees in North Battleford, as well as in Meadow Lake, Green Lake, and in Pierceland, 2 degrees in Maidstone, 9 down in Macklin, 3 in St. Walburg, and -2 up in Isle of Cross. As we take a look now at your weather radar here, we could be seeing some things move in as the night goes. Things should start off as rain and turn to snow, possibly creating some icy roads and a sticky situation for tomorrow. As we look now at your school day forecast, things will start off chilly once again, -5 to start off the day. Like I said, it will be a cloudy one, but by the time noon rolls around, the sun should start to come out and we will have a high of -1. Now overnight in North Battleford, -3. They will be seeing a little bit of rain there turning into snow in tomorrow with a high of -1. Very similar in Cold Lake, snow overnight and a low of -8 before a high of 0 tomorrow. As we take a look now at your 3-day forecast here, Thursday a high of 0, or rather tomorrow high of 0, with that little bit of rain should be stopping or rather snow stopping early in the morning. Similar can be said on Saturday, and that should tail over from Friday night into Saturday there. That's all we have for the weather for now. We'll be back after the break with more news.
A nice chance to win a $300 certificate for Cliff Rose for Clothes is now an option for graduates. Our Shelby Clark got the details.
I'm speaking with Dave Schneider with Cliff Rose for Clothes. Can you tell me about this amazing graduation prize you're offering?
Yeah, it's a great deal. I've had a couple of local businesses approach me, a couple oil companies led by Rick Harper at Truck Zone, wanting to help out someone with a graduate this year. Everyone knows how tough things are right now, so they wanted to just come up with a promotion. And we're doing 5 $300 giveaways to anyone that buys a suit through now till the end of April. So come in, purchase a suit, and you have a chance to win a $300 gift card back to the store where you can buy shoes, dress shirt, tie, or you can just get some jeans and get some casual wear as well.
And do you all hope that this will be an annual opportunity for graduates from now on?
Oh, for sure. We're looking at, down the road, we kind of put it together quickly that next year we maybe try to get a lady store involved too, so we can do stuff for the girls as well. I got Kelly and Christine from the Hair Den that are also going to throw in a free men's haircut to the winners. And I think we have a little bit of photography maybe put into the package as well. So it's more than the $300 gift card here.
And how has support been so far with this prize?
Well, the pricing just started now, but our grads, not just Lloydminster, but our surrounding area have been phenomenal supporters of us throughout the years, and especially this year. So all the ones that already have purchased already will get their name in too. Some of them started back in February buying for grad. So it's we're very blessed with the people we have in this area.
Why did you all believe that this was so important to have for graduates right now?
Well, I think everyone's stressed. Either you're mentally stressed, you're financially stressed. So I think this is just a way for mom or dad to go take a breather if they happen to win. Maybe it's even dad needs clothes now, so now they can afford to get dad something too.
And can you just clarify as well when this offer ends for people wondering?
Sure, we're starting it now, so we have a draw box in the counter, and we're running it to the end of April, and we'll do the draw in the first part of May, so everyone with the early grads still have a chance to come in and use it.
And how can people be able to get involved with this?
So right now we have Truck Zone, Swift Oil Field, Three Guys Truck Wash, ourselves, and you guys at Newcap that are all involved. Again, we're trying to make this a bigger event for next year, but we kind of threw it together late, so this is what we're going to run with now. They just got to stop in the store, look at what we have, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. Is there anything else you want to add for people to know about?
Just for everyone knows in this community that even though oil guys, they're struggling a bit, these guys are always there to help. So it's good to see Lloydminster pulling together again.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Dave.
Thank you so much.
Now here are your stock market prices for today.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
Now we'll take a look at your egg prices.
The SJHL started their regular season on November 6th, which lasted until November 23rd. The league then announced that the season would be on pause until the new year. January 15th, the league made another announcement saying there would be no return to play for at least 4 weeks. Well, it's been longer than 4 weeks, and it will continue to be longer as the SJHL has announced the cancellation of the 2020-21 season. The Government of Saskatchewan and the Saskatchewan Health Authority made the decision on submissions before them, and with the current state of COVID-19 in the province, will not allow for a return to play. The SJHL says they will now turn to their focus to returning for a regular 2021-22 season. The SJHL was given $1 million by the Government of Saskatchewan to help offset financial losses from the pandemic. Well, taking another look now at your evening forecast. 2 degrees here in Lloydminster as well. 2 degrees in Cold Lake, 3 in Edmonton, -1 up in Athabasca, 0 in Edson and in Whitecourt, 6 degrees in Red Deer as well as in Jasper, and 9 over in Rocky Mountain House. As we move over to the Saskatchewan side here now, 7 degrees down in Saskatoon, 1 in Melfort as well as in Prince Albert, 4 degrees in North Battleford, and 3 over in Meadow Lake. As we move north now, -8 in Flin Flon, -4 in La Ronge, Buffalo Narrows, and in La Loche, -9 in South End, and -14 in Wolston Lake. That whole region there does have a snowfall warning in effect for tonight. As we move over to the Alberta side here now, -6 in Grand Prairie as well as in Slave Lake, -7 in Peace River, -1 in Fort McMurray, and -9 over in High Level. Moving down south now, 11 degrees in Lethbridge and in Medicine Hat, 8 in Coronation, 7 in Calgary, and 5 over in Banff. Taking a look now at southern Saskatchewan here, 5 degrees in Estevan, 10 in Moose Jaw, 8 in Swift Current, 6 in Kindersley, 7 in Regina, and 1 over in Yorkton. As we move now to your national temperatures here, 8 degrees in Vancouver, -7 up in Whitehorse, and -13 in Yellowknife. As we move central now, 3 degrees in Winnipeg, 16 down in Toronto, 12 in Quebec City, 14 in Halifax, 11 in St. John's, and -27 up in Iqaluit. As we take a look now at some overnight temperatures for the region here, everywhere hovering right around that -10 region. And as you can see, lots of snow for the region as well. Down in Unity, there is that chance you could see the mix of rain and snow. Things should start off as rain for most of the region, turning into snow as night goes on there. Taking a look at tomorrow's temperatures, everywhere hovering right around that 0 degree mark, but it will feel closer to that -10 range when you take into account that wind chill there. Moving on to our 7-day forecast, Friday night and into Saturday, there is a chance that we could see that mix of rain and snow once again, as you see there. Snow on Saturday, but Saturday and Sunday at least are looking warmer, as you see highs of 9 and 15 there. Sunday night going into Monday could also see a chance of that mix of rain and flurries there. 52% there on Monday, but Tuesday and Wednesday we'll finally get to see a little more sun with highs of 2 on each of those days. That's all we have for the weather for now. We'll be back after the break with more news.
Stephanie Dobson is back with us again this week. Stephanie is a local lawyer and mediator. And Stephanie, we've been talking this past week, we were talking about the changes to the Divorce Act. That is going to continue today. We're doing this as a 3-part series because there's so much to be covered. So Stephanie, first of all, can you tell me what is going to be covered in each part?
Sure. So viewers might remember last week in part 1, we talked about the terminology with respect to the Divorce Act. So where it focuses more on relationships between parents rather than entitlements. In part 2 today, we're going to be talking about the phrase, the best interests of the child, and how that relates within the current Divorce Act. There's been a change from the old Divorce Act in the way it was laid out. And next week, we'll be talking, there'll be a bit of a 2-part series next, or a part segment next week. The first part will be about relocation and the provisions around relocation in the new Divorce Act. And the second part is around the new duties that are spelled out for legal advisors and for the parties to any court action. Now, one thing I want to remind viewers before we get going, the Divorce Act that we're talking about today is federal, so it's Canada-wide, and so it applies to married spouses. The Alberta and Saskatchewan legislation will be around our area, will be what people will be familiar with for unmarried parents. And interestingly, Saskatchewan has followed suit with the changes to the federal legislation. So on March 1st, 2021, the Saskatchewan government also brought in changes to the Children's Law Act to mirror a lot of the provisions in the Divorce Act. And in Alberta, these best interests of the child that we're talking about are also mirrored in the Alberta legislation, but that's been in place since 2005.
Okay, well, Stephanie, if you can just expand on that too, as far as the new act goes, what does it mean when they're talking about the best interests of the children?
So that phrase has been part of our legal landscape for family law in Canada and internationally for many, many years. But the difference here is that in the old Divorce Act, there was a focus on the best interest of the child, and that's what we were to look at when we addressed parenting issues. However, there was no list of what that actually meant. So in the new Divorce Act, we actually spell out that list, and that's what we're going to go through today, is what that list looks like.
Okay, Stephanie, and let's go through that. Let's start with that. It is very in-depth and comprehensive, like this whole act is, and all of the phrasing that goes with it. So can you go through that list?
Yes, so the good part about this interview is that not only is it live, but it's also on YouTube, so you can, listen to it once and then you can go back and listen to it again, because it is a bit of a long list. So the first consideration, there is a priority consideration within the list of the best interests of the child. That's that the courts are required to look at the safety, security, and well-being of any child as first and foremost. So that's the paramount consideration. Then after that, there's a long list of 11 items that we're going to go through here that are really in no particular order, but they're the list that the courts will look at. So first, the children's needs, given the children's age and stage of development. So this deals with individualizing children's issues, things like temperament, physical and psychological needs, or even disabilities. Second, nature and strength of the child's relationship with each spouse, siblings, grandparents, or other important persons. So that we're recognizing the stability that these extended relationships can have for children as they transition into two homes. Third, each parent's willingness to support the development and maintenance of the child's relationship with the other parent. So that's also known as what we call the friendly parent rule.
Right.
Fourth, history of care of the child. So the courts will look at the roles that each parent played before the separation occurred and their knowledge and ability to cope with things like daily routines, health issues, those sorts of things for children. Fifth, long list, the child's views and preferences. So of course that will depend on the child's age and maturity. Number 6, the child's cultural, linguistic, religious, and spiritual upbringing and heritage. And in this act, there is a specific reference to Indigenous upbringing and heritage. So the courts will look at a willingness for a parent, by a parent, to maintain and to promote a link to these things. 7th, almost there, plans for the child's care. So the courts will consider any parenting plans that the parents have made in advance of getting to court, or even what one parent proposes as the parenting plan. Number 8, the ability and willingness of a parent to meet the needs of a child. So that focuses on whether a parent is unwilling or unable to handle, or willing or able, of course, to handle the health, safety, or well-being of a child. And it really is assessing the strengths and the limitations of each parent. Number 9, the ability to and willingness for co-parents to communicate and to cooperate. Of course, one of the focuses of the Divorce Act is to shield children from conflict between parents, and so that level of cooperation will be looked at. And number 10, family violence, and number 11, other relevant criminal or civil proceedings. So next we'll be getting into that family violence a little bit more.
Well, and Stephanie, as you do mention family violence, obviously that is something that will have a huge effect on what happens with these proceedings. So can you tell me how the courts look at parenting when it comes to the issue of family violence?
Yes, absolutely. So in the new Divorce Act, there's a more expansive view of family violence. So it's not than what you would traditionally think of the criminal nature of family violence. So it looks at members of the household who are conducting themselves in a way that's either violent, threatening, or that constitutes what they call a pattern of coercive or controlling behavior, which causes a family member, someone in the household, to fear for their own safety or for that of another person. So family violence is things that you would traditionally think of like physical or sexual abuse or harassment, but it goes even further than that to things like psychological and financial abuse, failing to provide the necessaries of life, which is a bit of a legal term in and of itself, and even abuse towards animals or property. So in looking at the best interest of the child, it's actually validating that a child's direct or indirect exposure to this family violence, so either experiencing family violence themselves or even seeing family violence occur within the household, is in and of itself family violence. So when we're looking at assessing the best interest of the child, we're going to be looking at the impact of family violence to consider such things as the ability and willingness of a person who's engaged in family violence to care for and meet the needs of a child. Number two, the appropriateness of making an order that would require the cooperation between the victim and the perpetrator, which potentially could actually lead to more violence. And lastly, the courts will look at the nature and seriousness of the violence and whether there's a pattern of that violence, and even the steps that the perpetrator is taking to correct that violence and to improve their parenting.
Okay, Stephanie, well, as we said, there's so much to discuss with this new Divorce Act. So thank you so much for joining us today. And just a reminder that next week we'll have part 3 in this series because the wording is so important with all of these changes in the Act. So once again, as Stephanie said, you can watch the video on our YouTube page as well as the Hanka Divorce Law and Mediation page following this interview. And we'll be back next week with a more in-depth explanation of more of the wording of the Divorce Act. So thanks again, Stephanie, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stacey.
I'm joined today here on Primetime Local News with Bailey Blackwell. She is from the Connect Club of Lloydminster. Now, they launched a new fundraiser at the beginning of this week, and we're here to talk a little bit more about it. So, Bailey, can you just tell us, first of all, a little bit more about this fundraiser?
So the fundraiser is for the purchase of rain barrels. So it's through this company in Canada. They produce and ship the rain barrels to us, and then we get a portion of the proceeds. So yeah, the sale started on this Monday, which was the 22nd, and then it goes until May 1st is the deadline. We're hoping to have the barrels by May 13th, but it kind of depends on how many orders we actually get. So somewhere in that second week of May, we're thinking we should have those barrels in, but yeah.
So for people who are interested in taking part in this fundraiser, how are they able to purchase a barrel, and how much do they cost?
So you purchase through a website. The website is rainbarrel.ca and then /Lloydminster Connects. If you go to our Facebook page, the Connect Club of Lloydminster, we have links in there to take you right to it. And rain barrels are $65 per barrel. So if you actually go to their website, there's a few different options. There's 3 or 4 different colors of the rain barrels. There's a slightly bigger size. The majority of them are 55 gallon, and there's one that's 60. And then there's a few other accessories that you can buy as well. And then there's actually a composting bin too. So there's a few options for people.
And this campaign was launched on World Water Day. And so can you just talk a little bit more about the importance of water conservation?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was a really perfect day to start this campaign. So yeah, just kind of bringing awareness. I mean, I think a lot of people in the summer are aware of how much extra water they're using, but it's been estimated that 40% of your water bill actually goes towards your lawn and garden in the summer. So it's a pretty significant amount. So if you can save a little money and reduce your water consumption by using a rain barrel, then that's a win-win in our eyes.
And the proceeds of this are going to go to support the Connect Club of Lloydminster. Can you just talk a little bit about what the Connect Club does here in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always have several fundraisers. We give back to lots of organizations. We like working with lots of the organizations in the community. all the other nonprofits. But yeah, so this year it's been hard, as with every fundraising group. Hard to not get those in-person fundraisers. So we're trying to look into things we can do virtually, and this was something that popped out. So yeah, we hope it's a success. I mean, even without COVID in a few years, we hope to continue this. So yeah, definitely check it out. And if you miss out this year, then I think this is something we'll probably continue doing every year.
Is this the first year that you guys have done this Rain Barrel fundraiser?
Yeah, it is the first year we're doing it. Yeah.
And you mentioned a little bit earlier about how the pandemic has affected the Connect Club's ability to raise money and fundraise. Can you just talk a little bit more about how you guys have been impacted the past few months?
Yeah, so I mean, like everyone else, we're not able to do those in-person fundraisers. I mean, a lot of our, not just fundraisers, but events that we do for the community have been impacted. I mean, usually we have a little Easter celebration coming up next weekend, but we can't do it this year. So that and a few other of our major events have had to go virtual, and they've still been really well received. We're appreciative of all the support that we have gotten, especially putting everything online, but it's definitely a challenge. It's hard to put a different spin on things and making everything virtual for sure.
And this is still early days into this fundraiser, but how has the reaction been so far?
It's been really good. Yeah, just sharing lots on Facebook, and yeah, we've had a lot of interest, so it's really nice. I think these are going to be really well received. There's one other club that does it out of Regina, and they've had really good success with it. So I think that, yeah, the public is really going to enjoy this one.
And just before we go today, can you go over the website again where people are able to purchase a rain barrel?
Yes, so it's rainbarrel.ca/Lloydminster Connects.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me, and I wish you guys the best of luck in this fundraiser.
Well, final look now at your temperatures for this hour. Things should clear up tomorrow. Starting off in the morning, it will be cloudy to start off the day, feeling around that -10 range there with the wind chill. But as you can see there, the sun should start to come out by later in the afternoon. Saturday and late Friday night, we could see a little bit of showers turning into snow, very similar from Sunday night going into Monday. But the good news, at least, is Tuesday and Wednesday look to be sunny with a little less clouds than what we'll see this week.
Thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News. Have a great night.